what exactly is context switching? Well, as product managers, we're usually juggling lots of different tasks all at once. Anytime we move between different kinds of tasks, we're also switching between different contexts, the different circumstances that might be involved, the history of the entire conversation, the different kinds of thought processes we need to keep in mind, all of that good stuff. And so to clarify, switching between tasks isn't necessarily a bad thing, and it's not necessarily something that has to be taxing. And so there have actually been quite a handful of studies done on what the actual cost of context switching is. We can actually quantify it. Every time we switch contexts, it takes about 25 minutes to actually get all the way back to 100% productivity. And that's for simple tasks. For complex tasks, it's even a lot worse. And that's part of the reason why we really shouldn't be interrupting engineers, we really shouldn't be interrupting designers when they're in the middle of work. Because when we do that, we're making them switch contexts, and they lose a lot of that previous thought process that they have. They lose a lot of the landscape, kind of all of that mental overhead and mastery of all the different concepts, and they have to pick everything up back from scratch, and that takes a really long time. And shockingly, back in 2015, Harvard Business Review actually found that we were losing $997 billion every single year due to these kinds of interruptions. And that was 6 years ago. Now that we're in the midst of a pandemic, now that there are so many different ways in which we can wind up getting distracted, it's no exaggeration to say that we're looking at more than $1 trillion worth of lost productivity just within the United States, let alone kind of across the entire world. And so it's pretty clear that context switching is an incredibly expensive problem. Another way to think about it is thinking about how much time you can actually work versus the amount of projects that you're actually juggling. So if you only have the one project that you're juggling, then you can spend 100% of your time on it, and you aren't spending that time switching in between contexts. Right? But let's say that you're tackling 2 different projects. Well, if you're tackling 2 different projects, maybe you need to spend about 20% of your time managing that context switching, and you can only spend about 40% of your time on project 1, and then 40% of your time on project 2. Then when you're juggling, 3 different things at once, then you can devote even less time to any given initiative. And as soon as you get to, let's say, 5 different things at once, basically you're not actually doing a lot of work at all. Most of your time is actually just spent trying to navigate between all the different contexts that you're switching in between. And so that's why, one of the phenomenon that you'll see as a product manager is whenever you're switching in between lots of different, instant messaging threads, for example, Slack or Microsoft Teams, or whenever you're moving between lots of different emails or lots of different conversations, it can be very hard to actually make meaningful progress because you keep having to switch contexts, and that can be incredibly expensive.